welcome everyone. Welcome back to my channel, to my specific podcast called Truth Revealed. I'm here with Tony Sabio.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing it
yes,
right?
Perfectly.
He's our special guest today. We're going to be talking about his background, his career, a little bit about his campaign. He's running in for Fairfax County, specifically the Providence sector. So we'll probably end there, but definitely excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tony and I met about 2 weeks ago?
About 2 weeks. Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. Norma was our point of contact. So Norma, we know her through our secretary from church.
Yes.
She's been working with us, kind of providing these opportunities for the youth. And it's been a great experience. I think we've known her for about a year. So Magda, the secretary from church, reached out and she's like, yeah, come to the Cinco de Mayo event. She sent me the flyer. I read a little bit about what you were going to talk about, mental health, protecting our kids. And you have a very unique story about adopting a foster kid, which we'll get into as well. So I was like, why not? Let me go meet Tony. And yeah, I met him at Cinco de Mayo. It was a really great event. I really was, I went with my church members, so they enjoyed it as well. I think we were just very interested to see somebody taking action in the community for our youth. As we all know, the news tells it all. Our youth is really struggling at church, at schools, and I really enjoyed that Cinco de Mayo event, and I enjoyed having. We barely talked, though, because he was mingling with other people. But I got a great sense of you. I also met Kelvin. I got his contact. Hopefully, I can interview him as well. But yeah, I definitely want to know more about you. I've really just read your highlights in paper. So how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, your background? I heard you have Latino roots. Do you speak any Spanish? And then maybe go into the story of foster care.
Of course. So thank you for having me here. And that event was awesome. And you mentioned Kelvin, and it's amazing that nobody knew that he was a Democrat coming in, and he didn't even know I was a conservative. But that shows the unity that we're trying to do. And when we push the politics aside, there's a lot more that bonds us together. And that was a perfect example for that. But, my background, I came from the inner city of San Diego, a place called National City. I grew up in Title I schools. So my middle school and my high school, and I think my elementary, were Title I schools. But I never knew this. I never knew.
Wait, so what do you mean Title I schools? This is the first terminology.
Title I schools are schools that
Division I, maybe?
No, Title I schools are schools that have special funding because of low-income poverty homes. So that's what a Title I school. I didn't even know this until I started running for school board, and people kept talking about Title I. So I looked it up and realized that I actually came from a Title I school. Wow. I just didn't know. And what happened was, growing up, I thought this was the norm. Like, things were owed to me, this equity, that things should be given to me. It was just ingrained inside me. And it wasn't until I turned 16 and I was walking home at 12 midnight. So no 16-year-old should be on the streets at 12 midnight, but I was. And a car rolled up, shotgun came out from the back seat, and they said, "What you claim?" And being an area where I was growing up, we had every mix of gangs there. We had the Latinos, we had the Asians, we had the Crips, the Bloods, and we had the Samoans. So you had a whole different segments of people all in one area, and gangs on one side of the street to the other. And so that time I had birthday cake with me, and I said, it's my birthday.
You were carrying your own birthday cake?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a piece. It wasn't the whole cake. A couple of friends threw a party for me. And I said, I don't claim anything. Well, luckily, they pulled the gun in and they left. But at that time, I noticed, this is not the life I want to live. I need to do something a little bit different. And I tried to, through the system of going to school and get mentored, but there's very little mentorship that was happening. Yeah. Everything was being driven in that this is your whole life. This is all that's going to happen for you. And there was nothing more to inspire me. So I went to school, college, and didn't really succeed over there. And moved into the military. I got to a point in my life where I was like, I can't do this by myself. I needed some sort of structure. Went in the military, found great structure. I found mentors.
What branch?
So I went to United States Navy, and I went as a Marine Navy corpsman. And if people don't know this, so the Marine Corps is part of the Department of Navy.
Okay.
So I actually went into the Marine Corps recruiting office, and they said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I'd like to be a corpsman, a doc." They took me outside, took me across the hallway to the Navy side, and said, "Hey, he wants to be a corpsman." Didn't know this, but apparently all the medical comes from the Navy side, and you have to go become a green side corpsman. So you have to enlist in the Navy to get over to the Marines as a corpsman.
Okay.
So I did all that and found good mentors. When I went with the Marine Corps, I found great mentors. People I talk to right now, and a lot of retired gunnery sergeants that are proud of what I achieve. And I tell them that everything I achieve is because of you guys. And so I went in there, taught special operations. Mountaineering was my specialty.
What is mountaineering for those who don't know? I don't know a lot about the military.
No problem. So mountaineering is rock climbing. It's traversing through the mountains. It's survival. It's a winter survival. It's during the summertime. It's learning about the mountain medicine. It's learning about how to cross hard terrain, similar to what you see in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So I was there. I was instructing in specialized operations, so special operations training group. And after that, I got recruited into the Secret Service. Secret Service was an amazing time. I was on the SWAT team protecting George Bush, W. Bush. And it was an amazing time. And that's where I started learning more about politics and different things I'm seeing. But it also taught me of servitude and to continue that servitude and wanting to do more. In 2007, I got recruited into the CIA. The funny thing is, the first time they tried to recruit me, I said no.
Why was that?
I didn't know who they were, and I was happy where I was at, and I thought they were Blackwater, so I said no. Then the second time they came and through a person on the team, on the Secret Service team, said, "I think there's an area you need to go to." And at that time, I was ready to do more. I felt that everything I did in the Secret Service has reached its pinnacle. And he helped me out and got me in contact. They contacted me, and 3 months later, I was in the CIA. I was with a specialized unit called GRS. And GRS is the team that was in Benghazi. That was one of my teams out there. I left before that all happened. The Benghazi episode happened. But I spent my time on that team working with fantastic operators, all coming from special operations, doing some great things for the country. And then, got to a point in my career where I wanted to move out of that and move into more of a counterintelligence role. Did that.
Within CIA?
Within CIA. And then after that, just decided that it was time for me to move on to different things. Spend more time with the family. At the time, I did adopt a son. He was in first foster care and then adopted him. He was 14, and he was in the system since he was 7. Mm-hmm. So for 7 years, he was in the system, bouncing around. His father went to jail for life for sexual abuse. His mom died of a drug overdose.
That's such a tragic story.
Yes, and he's biracial, and so he could have been one of those statistics.
So how did you hear of him? So this is separate from the Ukraine adoption?
Well, Ukraine was a rescue.
Okay.
Yeah. So I found out about him because my wife at the time wanted to adopt, and so we went and adopted and looked and fostered first and then adopted. And a lot of people go right away to the little kids and everything, but we went right to a 14-year-old because he just needed somebody. Yeah. And it was hard. It was the hardest thing I ever went through.
Because they're set in their ways.
They are set in their ways, and plus, very defensive, mm-hmm. especially towards males. And it took a lot of time, which is one of the most amazing things. What I'm looking at, what I want to do for the county is Fairfax County and Virginia has a wonderful program for foster care. They teach people how to be parents, and that resources need to come out to everybody.
And I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and nobody really does. Nobody really knows about this, and it's a program that could easily be expanded because like I said, when I was in the class, I wish I had you guys before I had kids.
Yeah.
Make
That
life
would've
so
been
much
helpful.
easier.
Yeah.
Because we're all trying. We're trying our best.
Yeah.
And so these are resources out there that I would love to try to tap into for the community.
So for people who are interested maybe in being foster parents or fosterees, I don't know if that's the
foster
term.
parent, yeah.
Foster parents, what would you, top 10 things, recommendations for them in parenting?
For parenting?
Yeah, foster kids.
I'll tell you this, for any parents, one, family time. And that is the most crucial moments for your family. So what does that mean? I used to do this with my family, especially when we got Dominic over, that's his name, my adopted son. I want to make sure that I want to bring my family together, and it's cooking dinners and stuff.
Because you also have a daughter, right?
Yeah, 2 daughters, twin girls and a boy.
Oh, twin girls, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so big family.
Yeah.
And I'm also a grandfather too. You met
Yes,
one of my
I met your
granddaughters. Yes. So family time was very important. During that family time, I love to cook. So I'll cook for the whole family, and then once it's done, the kids set the table up, phones go away, and we sit there and have dinner.
That's good. You set the ambiance. Yeah.
And then after that, each child or each person, even the parents, it rotated. We get to choose a family event that lasts an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be a 2-hour event that we're carving out. And if it was a movie we watch, you don't have to stay for the whole movie. You just got to stay until the time ended. And at first, my kids were very apprehensive. Like, we don't want to do this.
Too many rules.
Exactly. Until one of their friends came over and had dinner. And my daughter Samantha says, hey, listen, this is what my dad does. Just bear with it. And you can't have your phone. She gave the ground rules. You can't have the phone, and after we're going to do something. Don't know what it is. It might be playing cards. It might be playing a board game. Don't know what it is. And she tells me this story at the end when her friend leaves the next day because she stayed over. She said, my friend couldn't believe how much fun this is.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not common, and I think I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, but it's such an easy thing to do. But her friend said, I wish my family did this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of families just don't. They don't take that time. They're so quick on what they're doing day in and day out that they don't say, hey, listen, take 2 hours a day. It doesn't have to be 7 days a week.
Right. You pick and choose maybe the weekends, right?
Yeah. And so we made it a point to do at least 4 days out a week. We're going to do this. And, you sit down, you cook, have a nice meal, clean up, family time continues on, playing card games, whatever it is. And it just made a better situation. And it created a nice bond, a lot of laughter, communicating, joking, talking about the issues that they're dealing with. And, if I could stress to parents out there and people that want to foster or foster parents, just doing that little thing makes a huge difference.
How was it like integrating? I know we don't have to go deep into this, but like integrating your foster child into your family.
I raised my kids to be very gracious, to understand that to bring everyone in. It's funny because every time I'm with them, I like to joke, and so they just learn to be more giving to a lot of things. They embraced it very well. I mean, obviously they were older than him, and so it wasn't a situation where they're younger and they're competing for time and everything. I mean, they were teenagers, so they're like, come on, Dad, we really don't care.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing right there. But it wasn't a hard thing for them. And I think it's because, when you have faith in your heart, you have and the Holy Spirit's within you, and then the Holy Spirit's within them. I think it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So you adopted Dominique.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
So I adopted him, and we had he integrated into a family. We moved on together. He did have struggles, a lot of struggles at times. I just put my hand on his shoulder, and he said, shrug. There was a lot of ups and downs. A lot of frustrating, a lot of tears from my end because I thought I was failing,
I bet, yeah.
and a lot of prayer on my side, leaning out to God and saying, what am I doing? What's going on? What can I do? And the funny thing is, during the same time where I adopted and I found my salvation, So that's in 2015. Right around that time, I found my
All right.
salvation.
So that all accumulated at the same time.
So I had my, I'm working through my faith and working through everything. And it really helped out, leaning on God for guidance and the Holy Spirit to try to get, a little more guidance on what I should do, a little more patience, a little more understanding, a lot less self-blame, like I'm failing, to understand that it's a process. And to really understand that, just like your salvation's a process, this is a process. And I think a lot of Americans, a lot of people in the world think that things are going to happen like this. We're so fast in a society that I could get on the phone, I could order Uber Eats, and my food's going to be here. And fail to realize that life is a process. Things don't change overnight. And it's a slow change going through that's going to last a lifetime.
Right.
And so myself leaning on my faith and really looking at that and saying, this is a process. I know it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be ups and downs, but I just need to stay steadfast in what I'm doing. I need to, continue pray and lean on my faith, and then just let my faith and the Holy Spirit shine to Him to connect, and it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking about faith, and I was going to ask about that. So what were you doing before in 2015, I guess? What were you believing in?
So I was a Catholic by birth. So my mom is Puerto Rican. My dad is Filipino.
Interesting.
Yes, born in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
I can understand some Spanish, and people always get on me because of...
You should have learned. What happened? No,
I was born in Puerto Rico, but my parents decided not to teach us either language. Now, my dad is amazing. He's trilingual, and his accent could flip all three ways. So it's the most amazing thing. But no, my parents didn't teach me, even though I grew up in San Diego, which is a huge Hispanic community.
Yeah, I've heard.
It just didn't. Once I'm around, I start picking it up, and if you start yelling at me right now,
you'll understand
real fast. I'll understand. So no, that's one of the things that I'm disappointed about. But it's one of the things that also, if I'm around the community, around Spanish speakers, I start picking it up more and more and more. But I kind of get embarrassed because I should know, but I don't. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I'm not. Luckily, my parents did teach myself and my siblings, but it's not perfect. I'm sure I butcher it, and sometimes people laugh at me, but I just go for it. But speaking about faith, I think it's super important. This is what this podcast is about. It's about revealing truth from a biblical standpoint. And of course, we'll obviously bring individuals from the secular world but I think faith is very important. It's what really guides us, like you were mentioning, and it gives strength to the people who are weak. And we're weak, right? We're mere humans at the end of the day. We do have the Holy Spirit, and that's why He's there, so that we can leverage Him in our day-to-day lives, and so that He can help us with our family, help us with our personal struggles. And so I'm glad that you found faith and you feel like it's working for you. Yeah,
definitely. And faith has always been since 2015, because I was in a bad situation with work. There were some people that were lost in colleagues that I took a lot of internal blame for. So I struggled with that. I moved into depression, lead into more drinking just to numb it out. And it wasn't healthy. I was shut down, not talk to anybody, and literally not talk even to my wife for about a week. I just wouldn't talk at all. Very little words, like yes, no, what, things like that. So it really affected the family dynamic too. And I just had to do something for myself. I had to. I wasn't even looking for it. One of my friends from the Secret Service, he already left, and he was working with a church group, and he asked me if I could come out and just help them, look at their security and help them with that. And I was like, sure, why not? And then once I was around it, I wasn't trying, but, the Holy Spirit just found me.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, the pastor was like, I tell him one day, hey, I found my salvation. He goes, when? I go, it was just a moment in time during one of your sermons. It just hit me that this is me.
This is what you needed.
This is what I needed. And when I talk to people about their salvation, it's that you don't go and try to find it, it finds you. True salvation finds you. And it's the most amazing thing. And then, going through my struggles, because everyone goes through their struggles in life and things. And I was going through a lot of internal things, a lot of guilt from, things overseas that happened that I felt guilty for because people lost lives. And even though it wasn't anything direct towards me, I always felt that I could have done something more. At the time, things in my family wasn't working out the best way. And I just had to get away to kind of go with myself into my feelings. And I actually took a trip, left, told my family, hey, I have to go. They're like, where are you going? I said, I don't know. I just know I need to go. And I ended up driving. I ended up in Tennessee.
Why Tennessee? Of all
I don't
places?
know. I don't know why. So I went up to Tennessee, found the Smoky Mountains. I hiked all the way up to the top, to the areas where nobody really, there's no campgrounds. I mean, it's up there. These isolated campgrounds, and you're by yourself. So I went up there, and I spent time.
Which we don't recommend, by the way, because you have to let people know where you are, right?
Oh yeah, but then again, I came from survival school and
that's true.
everything, so
He's the special case.
so I go up there, and I just stayed with my thoughts, and had my Bible, read my Bible, recorded videos of me going through things, took everything that I held on as a child, all my pain, all my everything, all my childhood scars I was carrying around, everything that holds you back from being the best version of yourself. And I took that and I went through a lot, and I prayed and I worked out, exercised, worked body to mind. And I got to a point where I was done. I was 3 days isolated up there, and then something inside me said, you need to go, and you need to go to water. And so I hiked down, got in the car, not smelling too good, got to a campsite by a lake, and I went into the water, and I dumped myself into the water, dropped myself in, and when I came out, I could literally see lights, just a shine that I'm seeing. And right there, just a peace fell upon me. And when I was leaving the water, I was walking around people, I could feel their energy. I could feel happiness, sadness. I could feel energy. And so I talked to another pastor that was down in Tennessee. And he's a friend. He's the uncle of one of my friends. And I'm reaching out to him. And he says to me, that's the Holy Spirit.
So you actually heard a voice, an internal voice.
Internal voice. I felt everything.
So that's an encounter.
And it was the most amazing thing. And after that, I just felt different, happy. I came back a different man. Everyone saw, my family saw, the change in there. And it was amazing. It was the most amazing experience. Now, I don't recommend people just go into mountains by themselves, train professional
here. It needs to be led by the Holy Spirit. And clearly the Holy Spirit was leading you to some point of sanctification, separation, so you could purge and cleanse, and kind of be reborn in a way.
Exactly, and it's kind of similar to what the Bible said when Jesus went to the top of the mountain and had to face the devil, and he was by himself praying. It's a lot of things that I look at with my faith has driven me to do a lot of things, and God has put me on the path to do the most amazing things. And one of the things we were talking about earlier is the Ukraine episode. And, working in the private sector, I have all these skills of being able to do a lot of amazing things to help people out. I was trained by fantastic organizations, trained by great mentors. And so I've always been at a point where, I like to give more of myself. In that particular situation, it was brought to my attention that somebody had their son in Ukraine and wanted that the kid out was scared. And we tried as a company because we normally didn't do this. For my last company I was with, we tried to get bigger companies to go get the kid out, and none of them would go in.
Because of the dire situation there, or?
It was Russia just invaded. And when it was brought to my attention, Russia invaded on a Thursday, and it was brought to my attention on a Friday. And during the weekend, they were trying to find people, and they asked me, "Who do you know?" I reached out to my contacts, even an agency, and I asked them. They're like, "Don't go in there. We pulled all our resources out. It's a bad situation." So I gave that back and said, "Hey, listen, my resources are tapped out." The person I was with, one of my colleagues, he says the same thing. Hey, my resource tapped out. I don't know what to do. So that was a Saturday. Sunday morning, he calls me and said, "Hey, we really got to get this kid out." And so it's 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like, "Okay, hey, get me a ticket. I'll go figure this out."
Were the borders still open? And
Borders were open because refugees or people were coming through to escape. So we devised a way for me to get in there, to go through using my medical expertise as a medical aid person. But I was going to figure it out. We had no one on the ground. And I said, "Listen, let me get there and let me figure it out." And so
Were you just confident in your skill sets, or what was it that kind of made you make that choice?
Something inside me said I had to go do it. Something inside me said, there's no choice. You have to. And then when I talked to the dad, he was, I could feel, his fear and him saying like, "I'll go myself. I need to." And I said, "Don't worry. I'll take care of it." But there's something inside me that just said, you just got to go. And so I didn't have all my gear, didn't have anything with me. So I talked to the owners of the company. One owners actually called me.
When you say gear, you mean like weapons, protection?
No, like.
I don't know.
No, so the gear was like, it's wintertime over there.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't even have like any like clothes to wear.
Right, boots, outerwear. Yeah.
Everything, all that was in storage. I wasn't prepared, didn't have anything. I just grabbed clothes and just went, and then bought things over in Romania. So when the owners calls me, and he says, "Tony, you sure you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, there's no other choice." And so I jump on.
Well, you felt like there was no other choice.
I felt that there was no other choice.
That it was,
And if you could save one life, and why not? That life to me is one life is precious. It reminds me of, the parable with about the sheep herder. You have 99 sheep, but you lose one, and then you go find it, and you rejoice by bringing that one back over the other ones. I mean, we look in a society of, well, it's all right, just one. No, to me, it's not. It's not all right. One is just as many as a many. And so when I went on a plane, went out there, tried to establish everything. I had no intel coming in, had nothing. I had to establish.
So did you go? Was it dark?
What's that?
And did it go dark? Could you get any intel out?
No, I got intel, but it's all coming from the United States, but it was all through open source. So it was whatever they're hearing on the news, different things. Mm-hmm. I had good sources giving me some pretty good stuff, but everything was so dynamic that you didn't know what was happening. So this is, in the very beginning of the war, so there was no battle lines drawn out. Russia was just coming from every direction. Ukraine was just trying to meet them, and head them off in different directions. They were, a lot of people were scared because you also had insurgents that were Russian sympathizers living within the cities that are taking arms. You also had, the Ukrainians saying anyone from 18 to 40, you're not leaving anywhere and go grab a gun. It's time for you to fight. And these are men that never picked up a gun, that they're being forced to fight. So it was a lot of chaos going through. But, during the time, there was a sense of calmness within me. And, we did everything we can to try to get the kid out without having me to go across. But it got to a point where the situation got so bad on the ground, especially in Kiev, which where he was, that I made choices and told everyone I'm crossing the border and I'm going in and I'll figure it out. And I didn't know anybody. I was able to get myself from point A to point B all the way through to get the kid. by sheerly working and talking with strangers and getting strangers' cars or doing various things to get up there.
Were you explaining this to these strangers?
No, no. What I did was I just told them, I'm medical and I want to get up there to Kiev to try to help people. And so I tried to make sure, I didn't use or flash a lot of money because, you don't know what you're running into.
Right.
I mean, in these situations, the crime element starts, getting really big out there because people are just chaotic and going in different, people are getting robbed because it's just a time where, criminals could take opportunities against innocent people. And, going up there, it was hard. It wasn't the easiest thing. But I utilized all the skills that was given to me through all my training in the military, Secret Service, and CIA to be able to accomplish this. Went up there by myself with nobody, no assistance. All assistance was being done as far as intelligence coming in from the state side. Nothing on the ground. Mm-hmm. Everything was just, I was talking to locals and moving within the locals. But it was hard, I will tell you that. I was up for 84 hours straight.
Oh my.
Yeah, and thank God to Monster energy drinks, which I found in Ukraine.
Yeah, they're better than Red Bull.
Yeah, well, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was an amazing thing, and we made it across. He lives right now in Maryland. The kid, he's going to school up in Maryland. With his family, with his dad, and he's well adjusted. A fantastic kid. I mean, he's very talented. He draws very well, plays piano. Smart kid.
So it was worth the risk.
It was worth it, and it's funny because as I'm leaving, he's playing his Nintendo Switch the whole time because he's a kid. He's a kid. He was 14, 15 at the time, and so he's a kid. He doesn't know anything like what's really happening. He just thinks it's pretty cool that someone like me is coming to come get him out and move him. So he thinks it's like the coolest thing ever. While for myself, I'm like, buddy, I haven't slept and I'm tired. And normally I have somebody with me at least, and I have communication for somebody to come get me if something went bad. So this was totally out of norm of how you do things. Some people use certain words to describe what I did, but I don't look at that. I look at it as there was something that was pulling me to do this. And I will tell you this, that out of everything I've done in the Middle East and everywhere during all my deployments, and I've done some really hairy things, this one thing I've never felt like safer. I felt that everything was going to be all right. Even though I was alone, isolated, didn't sleep.
You just had the certainty.
Didn't know the language, which was hard. There was something about this that was telling me and driving me, saying you're fine, and I just felt protected. And I tell people this, that this is kind of weird, because I've done a lot, but this is where I felt the most safest out of everything.
That's interesting.
And I just felt that something was guiding me along the way, that protected me, that steered me, that I didn't need all this intel. I just knew where I needed to go and how it was, and I knew that everything was going to be all right.
Yeah, it's almost like your whole career was building you up to this moment.
Yes, and I think that I was guided by the Holy Spirit, that God was with me the whole time. There's a huge faith aspect that I had during the whole thing. My Bible was with me the whole way in my backpack, the whole way. I leaned on that even during times when, I sheltered down for a bit to, waiting to figure out my next movement from city to city. I read scripture and just, prayed. And, but I just felt good. I didn't know. Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah. Would you do it again if someone were to reach out? I mean, I'm sure this is information that's public now. So I'm sure people have reached out, right, after the fact to do these type of rescue missions. And what is your response to that?
I love to do them. I'll do them again. I mean, it's something that I'm passionate about. If I could just, if I could create an organization that we just do that, that'd be fantastic. The problem is it does, travel and expenses to getting
does
somewhere.
that, yeah.
There's cost to everything. And it's such a hard thing because you wouldn't believe throughout the whole world how many of these things are happening. How many kids are lost, say, in sex trafficking, that are stolen or kidnapped, and they have nowhere to go. Nothing, no, the government there is not helping. Nobody's helping them, and they're just left
That's so sad.
in this. What am I supposed to do? And yeah, personally, if I could create an organization, nonprofit, to go do something like that, and everything's geared towards, helping people, helping families in these crisis situations, I would love to do that. But yeah, it takes an army of people and supporters to be able to do that.
No, I agree. And maybe that's something you can do in the future.
Yeah,
as
I
you
hope so.
continue
And I leave it with God. God will guide everything. He's guided me so far this way, hasn't steered me wrong, and I just listen to him.
Yeah. So before we move on to the Ukraine story, I don't know a lot about surviving in the wild. I'm sure people would love to hear some tips about that and
Yeah, no
recommendations.
problem. Well, one, I recommend nobody go to Ukraine or a war country when it's
But-
actually a war happening. That's number
Well,
one.
Number one. But, you've trained,
Yes.
right, in that area. And so what kind of tips can you give to people
So-
if they
so-
find themselves in situations?
So the greatest tip I can give to people is situational awareness. Understand the situation that you're in. You can utilize this in Baltimore, walking through. Understand the situation where you're going into. Understand the climate. That's the biggest thing. We call it atmospherics. You got to get your atmospherics of the area you're going into, and that's understanding.
that word.
Yeah, it's a great word we use all the time. It was that catch-all word when we just want to go out in town, like in Baghdad, and we're just doing atmospherics. But what it is understanding the trends. Okay, so for example, if you're going into Baltimore, there's a lot of carjackings going on over there.
There's a lot of violence.
A lot of violence. So you got to understand, the carjackings. Understand who's surrounding you. You understand that if you're driving and you're at a stoplight, do I have an out? Am I so close to the car in front of me that if someone comes with a gun, I'm stuck there?
I never thought of that.
So
See?
it's giving yourself an out so you can pull out and leave. Understand that, if you don't have a car that automatic door locks, make sure the door locks, automatically, or make sure it's locked at all times. It's understanding those little things, understanding like maybe I shouldn't walk at night.
Well, that's common sense.
And-
but for some people, it isn't.
It completely isn't. So it's understanding your environment and what you're dealing with. That's first and foremost in an urban environment. Understand that. Understand where the dangers come from, and then have a plan. And it's not saying that you're going to sit or walk around in what we call the red. That means I'm highly
always
vigilant and alert and
defensive, yeah.
defensive. No, what it means is I'm going to walk around in what we call like the orange, where I'm alert around my situations, what's around, and I have a plan for anything that may come. And just running through situations. If this happens, this is what I'm going to do. Going to, say I go to a restaurant. Okay, if something happens, where's my exits? And it's just really quick scan of the situation, scanning what's around you, and having a sense of your environment. In today's society, you have to have that. You don't take anything for granted. I mean, there's a lot of things happening all the way through. And you have to take responsibility for understanding the atmosphere, understanding the environment, and having a plan.
Awesome. No, that's a great tip. So moving on from
Yeah.
the Ukraine story, what happened after that?
So after the Ukraine story, I decided that I'm sitting around, decided I need to do a little bit more. What am I going to do? And
But you were still working in the private sector,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Helping out different people and really doing security and a lot of security for schools, helping them out. I wrote a lot of articles on the different shootings that happened and trying to give the expertise out to, schools and churches, synagogues. And then,
Well, before moving on, that's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of recommendations do you have for that? Because I think about that a lot in our local church.
Yeah.
We're completely defensive. Like, what do we do? How do we protect ourselves? And then, a lot of our members worry about their kids. And so
Yeah.
What are things that local churches can do?
Well, one thing that local churches can do is be very vigilant on the outside. So I teach what's called an attack cycle.
So what in tax?
A tax cycle.
Tax
So it's a tax cycle, meaning if someone's going to attack you, they're going to go through a cycle of target selection, surveillance on the person or the area, all the way to like a probe and see how close they get to the target, to the attack, and then obviously exiting out. And so that's in a quick scheme of it. But really, no matter if it's somebody that's going to rob somebody or somebody that's like a terrorist doing a complex attack, you're still going to run through that attack cycle. So it's being vigilant on the outside, seeing who's coming around the church and taking looks at the church that doesn't belong.
That usually isn't there.
The usually isn't there. People that are paying attention to doorways, doors, different things, exit times where people are coming in and out, things like that. They have to set up a plan. So if you could try to intercept them before they get to the actual attack, and do things to deter them, then that's success right there. So it's giving those tips out. So anytime a church, you see anything happening around the church, something suspicious, something that just doesn't look right, push that information to local law enforcement. Say, hey, we're seeing this vehicle that keeps passing by. It makes no sense. Got a license plate. Just want you guys to know. Kind of worried about this vehicle keep passing by. Or this person is kind of suspicious. He came by. He was asking some weird questions. Don't know what's going on with this. This is, his description. So doing little things like that, and some churches, they incorporate security into it, but then if you're going to incorporate security, how's that going to work out? So working with churches or synagogues on, if security's there, what are they going to do and how we're going to lock down everyone else. Right. So, and then understand when are you most vulnerable? When is the church most vulnerable? And understanding that this is when it's the church and the congregation is most vulnerable, so we need to be the most vigilant. Because anyone that's going to do anything is going to, any attack, they're going to try to get the most bang for their buck.
Right. So usually during the weekends, right?
During the weekends, if something happens, it's probably, it could be when everyone's exiting out of the church, when everyone's just out there, servicing, everyone's confined in one area, no one's really paying attention to the outside. Everyone's paying attention to, the priest. And that's a great time, if you look at it, because no one's really paying attention to outside. Everyone's listening to the sermon. So, yes, as much as we all want to just listen to a sermon, some people still have to be watching the outside perimeter, see who's coming up.
Yeah.
And see, so if you can see them from a distance, lock it down. So that's why I train a lot of churches and synagogues on.
I would love you to have us to train us, because I think we haven't thought about it. I mean, you're mentioning a lot of things that we haven't even considered, because we think, okay, God's going to protect us, and He does. His angels protects us, but we also have to take action on our part and be prepared.
You got to have the sheepdogs.
Yeah.
And the Bible says that. Have that out there. So yeah, I'd love to come down and take a look, and it's something that I'm passionate about, because just educating people on this. I know that they're going to take whatever I teach them and put it into private life. And it's going to, if something I pass, something I say helps save one life in a dire situation, I don't have to see the results of it. I just know.
You did your work.
Will.
Yeah.
And so, if that's, for me, I think that's where God has placed me in my life, to help people out, to utilize these skills that He's given me along my over 20 years doing this, to push it out, to pay it forward to others.
That's awesome. So you're still continuing training with the churches and the synagogues, and what else have you ventured into?
A lot of private stuff, personnel with people going through their travel stuff, making sure they're safe going overseas, making sure that they have a plan just in case something happens to them, that there's a plan on the shelf to, get them out of trouble. So a lot of that kind of stuff.
And this is not for regular people, right? services?
No, it's normally for people that have higher profile that are going to areas that for business trips and different things because of their profile, because of the current climate with kidnappings and ransoms. This is where it kind of goes into effect, kind of teaching them also the same basic stuff. If I'm not around them, teaching them about understand atmospherics, understand your profile, what you're pushing out there. Understand that 9 times out of 10, someone's going to come to you and they're going to rob you just because you're in the wrong place, wrong time, and you're an easy target.
Right.
And that's it. So make yourself a hard target. Don't be in these areas without paying attention. Don't have flashy stuff. Don't have a gold watch and with diamonds on it.
Yeah, no, that's
I mean,
that's like get me.
Yeah, you're just asking for trouble with that. And I'm not saying that, it shouldn't happen. I'm not blaming the victim. But, if you want to be targeted, if you want somebody, a predator, to pull you out of the whole group, they're going to look for certain things. They're going to look at, what does he have? Does this person have money? He or she have money? Okay, yes, driving this, they're watching. Is the person paying attention? Are they always on their phone? Different things like that. And you become an easy target. So don't become an easy target.
Yeah. So now you're running for, I forget the position.
School board. Yes.
School board for Providence sector within Fairfax County.
Yes.
So is that kind of the trajectory that you're now headed towards?
I think it is. And it wasn't something that I was thinking of doing, but I went to election on November 7th, and I voted, and I passed by the booth as a great gentleman volunteer, asked me if I'll volunteer, and I said yes. Then he asked, would you run? Would you be a candidate? And I was like, oh, why not? And so I went to the first meeting that they had and listened in. I was still kind of apprehensive. I was like, okay, I've never done anything like this. This is politics. And I was like, listening to everybody, and it just something said, yeah, this is the situation you need to be in. Your skills, everything you bring to the table, the security aspect, what you learned being a foster parent, it's needed now more than anything. We're in the dire straits. We have never been in a situation that we're in now. Right now, we're at the worst.
Really?
Suicide rates for our kids are at the highest, especially for females. I think it's ranging about 17 to 20% for females. Suicide rates. Fentanyl is coming across the border, and it's not the matter of fentanyl coming across the border. It's why are our kids going to drugs?
Right.
And we built a society that wants to put a Band-Aid over a gushing wound. It's like, okay, hey, fentanyl's coming across the border. All right, well, let's stop fentanyl coming across the border. Right? Okay. They're just going to go to something else.
Right.
Other drugs, other things, other bad things. And we're a great society that looks at the problem on the surface and try to solve the problem on the surface, as opposed to just diving deep into what our issues are that cause these effects. And so when I look at the mental health issue, I look at the deeper root of where this is stemming from. And it's stemming from numerous things. It stems with the family. It stems with the family nucleus.
Broken families.
Yeah, broken families. It stems from kids not having mentors. It stems exactly what happened with my son that I adopted, being in the system, drugs and crime and everything was involved. And
because the statistics are there, right? Once you're mentoring a kid, for the most part, there's a different life or a different path that they head towards. They're no longer going towards drugs. They're no longer going to hang out with these certain number of kids, the bad kids.
Yep.
So there's statistics to support that.
Yeah. There's a lot of statistics. And when we start treating all that and start looking at those issues, vices, we'll just do, drug intervention programs, or we'll talk how bad drugs are,
Which is not solving the problem.
It's not solving the problem. You're barely scratching the surface of it. You're not getting down to the deep root of the issue. And I think, as a society, that's all we concentrate on because that's what's blasted through the headlines. But if we dig deep into the reasons why, you start looking at break down the family traditions is one. Second to that, breakdown of community, which is huge. I mean, our community has not been divided like this
Yeah.
ever. And during
And
my
you're not even talking about the religious community, just the community,
the
in,
community in
general.
general,
Yeah.
you know, and if you start looking at it, you know, that's why my campaign we're inviting, you know, Democrats from all walks, and that's why I had Kelvin over there, because I want to show that this is our community, and so we could get away from what divides us and focus in on what unites us. There's a lot of more common, bigger issues, such as when I talk to a lot of parents, common issues. They want their kids safe. Nobody wants any kids to be in harm's way.
Absolutely,
That-
yeah.
Everyone can agree on that. Mental health. They want to take care of the kids. They want the kids. If a kid dies suicide, it's heartbreaking.
If a kid's going through depression, I mean, why? It shouldn't happen.
Exactly. So those are common themes that we could wrap ourselves around. You know, we may have a difference of how we're going to get there, but we have a common theme here.
Yeah.
And so my campaign is about that common theme. Here's the issues, this is what we need to tackle. And that's it. Let's concentrate on these two things. And a lot of parents, a lot of people are it's really resonating with them because somehow it's different. But for me, you know, I'm not a politician, but I see what's happening. And, you know, if I could bridge that gap between a lot of people and show them, hey, there's more in common. If we focus on what is in common, vice what divides us, things will work itself out. You know, and it's been the most amazing thing. And I didn't choose this path. I think it chose me. You know, and there's times where, you know, before I really dived in, which wasn't that long ago, where I really started putting a lot of effort into it. It was kind of like, I don't know, maybe people hear me talk and they're like, you know, you're fantastic, what you can bring. I was like, well, maybe I'll just like support a candidate and then give them their ideas of what to do.
Yeah.
But as I continued talking and talking with other people, the one thing I didn't notice was a lot of other candidates, once I've been talking with them, it was still a division. And now, talking with the other candidates now, you know, and really, you know, saying, hey, listen, there's a path forward to this. There's a lot of candidates who are like, you know what, we feel the same way. We're just, you know, weren't ready for this, you know. But I think the slate of candidates that we're having that are going against the incumbents right now are very strong. And a lot of it, you know, they're understanding that this is more than just running for political office. It's a mission of giving back, and it's serving the community and not serving a political segment.
Right.
And that's huge. I think it's coming out. I think a lot of moderate independents, moderate Democrats and independents are really seeing this, and we're getting a lot of traction. And I think a lot of incumbents are getting a little scared about what's happening. But, you know, we represent the community.
So how much power do you have? You know, we talked a little bit about strategy, mental health. Those are some of the touch points. Safety. Tactically, how are you going to address some of these problems, or are we still trying to figure out in these conversations that you're having?
With when I get into office?
Yeah, when
no, I
you
have
get
some
into
real life
office.
solutions. You know, when you start looking at security, as far as our security in a facility, you have to look at the facility and what's vulnerable and take care of those vulnerabilities. Right now we have 800 trailers being used. Some of them are falling apart. Some of them, or most of them, sorry, are housing our special need kids.
That's interesting.
Yes, very interesting. When I brought it up to the director of security for Fairfax County, he gave talking points to it. Didn't really address it. And so I kept circling right back to that. I was like, these answers aren't good enough, you know. So they don't have a strategy there. It's not saying that the security team for Fairfax County doesn't have a strategy. I wholeheartedly believe through all their experience, you have a director of security that came from the Secret Service. He has over close to 30 years in security and 10 years here. So that's almost 40 years that he has in security. You have law enforcement sitting there. That's part of the security team. You have regular security officers and advisors that are part of security. You probably have a century worth of security expertise sitting there. But this school board decided they're going to put money into a third-party vendor back after Uvalde to do a survey of all the schools to come out with suggestions
With suggestions.
on what to do, how to do upgrades. Now, that survey's still not done. It's coming on a year.
Wow.
And so when I brought it up, I said that. You have over a century of expertise right here that's being paid by the community. Why can't we enact some of these changes? I brought up simple solutions. I brought up a security film, a 3M security film to put on the glass doorways. So that's going to it's going to keep the glass intact, so it prevents someone from coming through and delays them.
Mm-hmm.
I brought up the trailers. Why are we not addressing these trailers in the phase plan? Right now, they're addressing our school buses. They're phasing our school buses out and making them into electric buses.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
So we're doing that for clean air.
Mm-hmm. That's not a priority. So for the trailers, are you thinking maybe that they expand on the school budget for construction? Is
Yes.
that what you're suggesting? Okay.
Carve out money to take care of these things. Now, you go and look at the most vulnerable school. That means you take an assessment and you rank which ones of these trailers, where they're situated, are the most vulnerable. Some, okay, maybe we could hold off because they're more in the back and are isolated, right? There's a lot of coverage, there's a lot of things to get to them. Some of them are right off the road. You can see it. Like, there it is. Those are trailers. So you got to do an evaluation of which one's the most vulnerable, and then take care of those. Carve out the money for that. And one of the candidates from 100 Mill, during that conversation, she decided to take the mic and said, our money needs to go into education. The $3.5 billion needs to go into education, not in gun violence. And I said, well, then explain to all these parents that have been talking about their kids' safety, and explain why you're putting money to clean air buses and not protecting your kids.
No.
I said, right now, if you had a vote right here, they'll tell you they want their kids safe. And so there's a lot of initiatives not happening, and it's a lot of what we call it in the military and the government, smoke and mirrors. You have over 100.
The bureaucracy of it all.
It is. You have 100 years of experience in the security department of Fairfax County. Yet, you're going to hire a third party to come in to do evaluation. I don't know what the price tag is on that. With the amount of schools and everything, it's in the millions. So you're spending millions of dollars on evaluation that is still not yet done, and you're not making any improvements until you get this, even though you know what to do.
Yeah, and even by the time that you guys do have something intact, it still takes time to build out, implement, execute.
Exactly. And so that's these are real world things I would do. Day one, I get into office, I'm gonna talk with the security team, and I'm gonna say, hey, listen, we don't need to go out and hire a third party to do a survey.
We can do things.
We could do it right here. I got elected. I'm a subject matter. I understand security. I understand what we need to do. Mm-hmm. You guys have, between all of us, well over 100 years of expertise. Let's tackle this. Let's go out there, do our own survey, figure it out, come out with a proposal. I'll present it to the board, a proposal of how we're going to make these changes, and then that'll be presented to the people, to the constituents, and we'll put a vote on this. I'm all about transparency. But that's the key thing that people want. They don't want talking points. They want to see results. They want to see
plans.
things happen. Yeah. Because they keep feeling. I talk to a lot of people, and they keep saying, my tax dollars, I keep paying, but I'm not seeing anything come back.
No.
So now's the time. And day one, that's what we're going to do.
And so how long is your office?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And do you, in those 4 years, do you feel like you might lobby or network with other individuals in Fairfax County? Because I know you're just focusing on the Providence sector, but a lot of the problems are really in other schools.
Oh, it's going to be all the schools.
Yeah.
So even though I'm running for Providence, I'll be serving the whole district. I'm not going to just concentrate on just one school. It's everyone. My voters are coming from Providence. I support them in their initiatives, what they want. But nevertheless, this is our community. So my plan is when I come on board, serve everybody. So even your district and work with them. And my whole plan for school safety and mental health is take whatever we build out here as the way forward for other districts all around.
The success story.
The
Yeah.
success story. And
Look
it's,
what we did in Providence. That's kind of what's.
well, not just look what we did
Hopefully,
in
yeah.
Fairfax County, so Loudoun County can mirror that too. And this is an important race because I think this is a place where we could really make a huge change that will have a ripple effect.
Sorry, I got a little distracted. No, that's great. So I guess right now you're working private sector.
Yes.
You're running for office.
It's a lot.
You're your grandpa, your dad.
Yes.
How do you find the time to do all these things?
Oh my God, I have an amazing team, and I have an amazing group that keeps me on track right now. I have a counter that they hold me to, and I'm bouncing around different areas. And when people say campaigning's hard, and I was like, it can't be that hard. It is hard, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of talking with people and seeing their stories and hearing what their needs are and feeling their passion about certain things and trying to be that person to say, hey, listen, I understand, I agree with you, and you know what, let's come up with some good ideas to try to solve these things. It gives me the fire to continue on. So it is hard, but you're just driving.
It's worth it, yeah. I was having a conversation with my colleagues, and they were telling me there's nothing better that brings someone together when you have a common problem and you're trying to address it.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's great that you're doing this work, this service to the community. We're so glad to have you as a candidate. And so for the people that want to vote out there, maybe kind of explain to them what the voting process is, what is it going to look like on the ballot? Mm-hmm. I know you have some colleagues that are also running for similar positions that are working alongside you. So
yes.
Maybe sponsor them or give them a shout out.
Definitely. So every district is going to have their district represented for school board. For mine, there'll be two, Carl Frisk and myself. Obviously, he's going to be above me. I'm below him. So everyone skip the first one, go to the second one. But you're also going to have at-large, and we got to get our at-large. If I get on board, I'm one of 12. We need to flip 7 seats on the school board so we could push initiatives a lot easier. But on top of that, we're having elections in our Board of Supervisors. We only have one conservative on the Board of Supervisors right now, and they control the money also. So changing those people over and really putting a push, because that supports the initiative. There's a lot of good candidates that I talk to that support the initiatives that I want to push forward. Brian Murphy is running in Providence. He's on board with pushing some of the initiatives I have for the school. So they're controlling the purses of what's coming for the budget. So those are very important. So we really got to look at all our local elections. November 7th is the date that we're actually having the election. And you're looking at, I think, about 20 to 25 positions open that are up for election just locally. Oh. And that doesn't count when you start looking at the state level stuff. So this is a huge year to really take back our community, take back our state, take back our area. So I ask everybody, a vote for me is a vote for everyone that I support. So just don't give a vote for me, give it for everybody.
Right, yeah. And so on the ballot, what is that going to look like? Tony Sabio?
So it's going to say Anthony, then in quotes, Tony Sabio. I had to put my full name on there, so... Okay. So it's going to be exciting, and if you want more information, everyone can go to my website, sabio4fairfax.com. One thing that we need, my opponent has over $200,000 in donations that come from the West Coast. Most of it does. I have a big uphill battle as far as donations and funding, so if people would give donations, that's fantastic. If you give a donation of $25, at least $25, you get a Team Sabio t-shirt.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'd love to have everybody start wearing that. So we're doing a lot of initiatives, a lot of fundraising. So if you could donate, anything helps out. If you donate at least $25, get a t-shirt. Awesome, wear it. If you could donate $1, that helps out too. Mm. If we're looking for volunteers, and volunteers could come from anywhere. It doesn't say that you have to be a volunteer or a donor from Providence. This is a coalition we're trying to build.
Right. And for the volunteers, what are you guys looking for? What kind of
So,
effort?
so we're looking for people to come out to have high energy. Obviously, do some calling. Calling different constituents in my area, tell them about the election, tell them how they could donate, how they could help out and support. Going around to different events, door knock. Really talk with them, giving out flyers, pamphlets, helping out with certain events that we have. We're going to start kicking off a whole series of different events. We're looking for people to help concentrate just on fundraising. So if I could have a coordinator to help me on initiatives to design fundraising events, that helps out too. I didn't realize how big this is. There's a lot. So I'm actually looking for somebody in IT that can start developing, email promotions that are going out, different things. Because right now I do a lot of that.
Oh, gosh.
It just takes up a lot of my time.
I bet, yeah. You need to delegate a bit.
And I'm not an IT person, so I'm learning on the fly.
So yeah, you guys already heard. Check out your website. That's where all the information is for the fundraising and the support and the volunteering. It was great having you. I feel like this was a really great conversation. We'll probably have you again to discuss a little bit of survival tactics or whatnot and safety, security. We'll dig deeper into mental health and our youth. I think this first conversation was really to just set the stage, introduce you to the folks, and get a better understanding of what you're trying to implement in Fairfax County and Providence sector. So it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll conclude here.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
That was fun.